Welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, May 16th, 2025. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. I usually record an episode every 2 weeks, but I have not recorded an episode for 3 weeks this time because this time a week ago, when I normally would have recorded a new episode, I was driving to eastern Iowa to visit my mom for Mother's Day. So I was able to visit her along with my daughter over last weekend, and we had a really nice time together. So it's been 3 weeks since I've recorded an episode. Therefore, I have quite a few finished objects to share with you all. Last time on my last episode, I had finished this cardigan. It was blocking on the floor in the background, so I didn't talk about it, but it was a finished object. I just still had to sew on the buttons, I believe. And then I only had one other work in progress besides a scrappy blanket, and I don't really count my scrappy blankets as regular whips. You know, those are kind of ongoing projects that last a really long time. Anyway, so I only had one other regular work in progress, and I've finished that work in progress, and I've also finished several other things that I hadn't even started last time I recorded an episode. So I have several finished objects to share with you all, and then I've started I have 7 works in progress right now to share with you as well. So I have lots to catch up with you all on. And so I'll go ahead and get started talking about this cardigan. This pattern is called Saga. It is a free pattern put out by Yarbo. It was designed by Wenche Roald. And I started this back in January, on January 11th of this year, and I finished it on April 25th. I made quite a few modifications to this pattern. It starts at the top with the ribbing. There's a bit of short row shaping in the back, and then you work into the color work section. For the original pattern, it calls for you to use a main color and 2 contrast colors for the body of the garment. And then there is a 4th contrast color brought in for the cuff color work section and some trimming. I was using up a bunch of scraps of yarn, so I used a total of 5 colors, 5 colors, and I did my own thing with the color placement. So I followed the pattern for the color work chart, but I did my own thing with where to put what color and when to switch colors and that sort of thing. I used the recommended needles, which are US 2.5 3mm needles for all of the ribbing, and then I went up to the recommended needle size of US 6 4mm for the color work. I started making size medium. When it came time to split for the sleeves, I split a little bit earlier than what was called for the medium size, and so my stitch count ended up in between the medium and the small size. In hindsight, I kind of wish I would have just stuck with the medium size and not split early, because it's not super roomy through this section. It fits, but it just fits. So I kind of wish I could just see what it would be like in the medium size. I think maybe I would like that better. So next time I make a yoked cardigan or sweater, I might try to, I usually split for sleeves so that I have a tight, like a close fitting underarm, because I guess I don't think that I'm going to like a deep yoke, but I don't know if I've really ever tried it. I just always split for sleeves whenever I just try it on, and then I split for sleeves when I get to the underarm length. I don't think I've ever made a deep yoke, and I just think I wouldn't like it, but maybe I would. So I want to kind of keep that in mind next time I make a sweater or cardigan like this. I'm still very happy with how it turned out, but I just am kind of wondering if I would like it. you know, to be a little bit oversized. Anyway, I used, the main color that I used, this dark charcoal color, is Columbia Minerva Skylark yarn in charcoal. And then the gray color that you see in the colorwork section is that same brand in the dark Oxford colorway. All of the yarn is sport weight, and this Columbia Minerva yarn is 50% virgin wool, 50% nylon. The other three colors I used are Knit Picks Wool of the Andes sport weight, which is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. The green color is called Pampas Heather, the white is called White, and the pink is called Blossom Heather. Those three colors, the Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Sport, were the ones that I had the least of, and so I really wanted to use those up, but these are the only scraps I have left over from those yarns, so that's really satisfying. But when I got to the end, I was really weighing my yarn to try to figure out what colors I could put where for the rest of the color work. Last time I showed this as a work in progress would have been 2 episodes ago, and I cannot remember where I was exactly. I must have been on the, I don't know. Maybe I was only on the first sleeve, because I don't think I've talked about the color work section at the end here. Oh, I think I had knit one sleeve, maybe to the pink section. Maybe I ended there or a little higher up. And then I knit the second sleeve to the same point, and I was weighing my yarns and trying to figure out how much further I could go with the sleeves. And I wasn't sure if I'd be able to make the sleeve completely color work. But the original pattern does call for this different color work section here at the cuff. And I was able to add that in, and it worked out really well. I'm really happy with the length of the sleeves. And I just used what I had left, you know, what I could. I was definitely running out of the green color, so I didn't use that anymore. Although the least amount I have left over now is the white. But anyway, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I love the differentiation and the color work here at the cuff, how that changes. I think that's really fun and beautiful. I knit this a little bit more cropped than what the original pattern calls for as well. I only knit to 9 inches in the body before I started the ribbing, and then I did 3 inches of the 1x1 ribbing. All of the ribbing is 1x1 ribbing. And I did Italian sewn bind offs for all of the, you know, on the edging of all of the ribbing. I also did not do any decreases in the sleeves as the pattern called for. I typically do that. I just knit my sleeves straight, and then I did a bit of a decrease right before the cuff. So I just did 1 row of knit 2 together for when I switched to the cuff color, and then I started the ribbing. For the button band, this was a steeked sweater. I didn't mention that, but it was knit in the round, and then I cut it open and added the ribbing. And I just did my own thing for that. I didn't really pay attention to the pattern. I just picked up stitches as I thought it would work out, and it seemed to work out. Maybe I did pay attention to the rate of pickup that she suggested in the pattern, like pick up 2 to every 3 stitches or something like that. Maybe I did do that. I can't quite remember now, but anyway, I just picked up the ribbing, did 1x1 ribbing, added buttonholes. I did not follow her pattern for buttonholes. I had picked out these buttons from my stash, and I knew that they were pretty small, so I didn't want to make a large buttonhole. So I just did a typical buttonhole where you yarn over, knit 2 together. But when I knit the next round after the buttonhole, when I got to that yarn over, I knit it through the back loop, and that tightened it up a little bit more than it normally would if you just knit it normally. I think that's what I did. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. These buttons, I recently went through my button stash, which I have never really had very organized. I've just had it in a container that had little compartments in it, but things were just all jumbled up. Anyway, about a month ago or so, I went through my button stash and I organized all my buttons. I, put like buttons together and figured out how many sets of buttons I had. And these were one of, I probably won't be able to see it very well, but these were one of the buttons in my stash. And they're probably vintage, but they match this yarn so well, and they kind of have a bit of texture to them. And I thought that they would just be perfect. You can kind of see how they look, but I just think they're great. I was happy to find something in my stash that would work for this cardigan. And I had plenty. I have added 6, I think. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Yes, 6 buttons on this, and I do have 2 extra ones. One of them is damaged, but if I ever needed to replace any of these buttons, I have a couple of extras. Let's see, is there anything else? I think that covers it. Oh, the steeped stitches, I have not covered those up at all. So I still have these raw steeped stitches on the inside. It doesn't bother me a ton. I will probably keep my eye out for some ribbon that will coordinate with these colors that I could possibly sew into the inside of my cardigan here to cover up those raw stitches. But it doesn't bother me too much. For the steeking, I do have a tutorial here on my YouTube channel that shows how I have steeked my garments in the past, and I followed that same procedure for this one. I use my sewing machine, I do a zigzag stitch, and I sew a line on either side of the steek, and then I cut it open and go from there. I think that's all I can remember about this cardigan. I'm probably forgetting something, but I'll go ahead and stand up so you can see a little bit better how it fits me. So here you can see how it fits me. It's pretty cropped, but that's how I prefer to wear my cardigans, because I typically wear this outfit, this kind of an outfit, where I wear leggings and a dress over top, and so it just works well for me to have a cropped cardigan. And I really like how it fits. Turn around so you can see the back. And I'm really happy with it. I think it's great. And I thought that it was fun that I thought I would only be able to wear it with solid colored dresses. But this dress, the colors just match perfectly. And even though they're both busy patterns, I think it works. So I also have a pinkish colored dress that has white flowers on it. And I think it looks cute with that too. Even though, again, they're both busy. But I think it just kind of coordinates. So. And I also have some solid color dresses that I could wear with it too, but I think this one is really great. I was surprised that, the colors just go pretty well together. The dress has more of a blue color rather than a gray color, but I still think it works great. So I think that's it. I don't know if I probably won't always wear it buttoned, but I do like it buttoned. And then of course I can wear it open too. And that's nice too. And it seems to stay up pretty well when I've only worn it once already, but it seems to stay up. Sometimes with cardigans that have a crew neck like this, sometimes they'll flop open like that. And that's not horrible, but it's kind of nice that this one seems to hold its shape, I guess, when it's unbuttoned even. So I really like that as well. I also really like the neckline, how wide it is. It's not too wide where, it's falling off my shoulders, but I like how it has an open neckline. And yet it still has, like I mentioned, those short rows in the back there. So it does raise the neck up a little bit more in the back. So anyway, I'm really happy with it. But it's too warm to wear. Of course, I finished it. Now it's definitely spring. We've had some pretty warm weather. I think it got up into the 90s earlier this week. Anyway, today's not quite that warm, but it's still too warm to wear this. So I'm feeling the heat and I'm gonna slip it off. But anyway, I just wanted to share that I finished this cardigan and I'm so happy with it. I'm so pleased that I was able to use up those little bits of yarn that I had in my stash, and yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I should mention that I usually don't have my hexy scrappy blanket on my bed, but I have it on the end of my bed today. And anyway, I have a tutorial for that pattern on my channel as well. If you're interested in seeing how I made this blanket, it's made all out of fingering weight scraps of yarn. And anyway, I really cherish that blanket. I love it so much. Okay, another finished object that I have was my only work in progress on my last episode. It is another classic ribbed hat, free pattern by Purl, Soho, designed by Jake Canton. For this one, I have said in a couple of episodes previously that I have been making these on repeat, and I was wanting to count how many have I made. So I did, and this was number 12 of this pattern that I have made. I've made them pretty much all the same. I've made all of them. I've always made the adult small size. I have adjusted my needle size in the last few hats that I've made to get a tighter gauge. So for this one, I used some yarn that was gifted to me by Danielle of Midwest Stitches. And I used, the yarn was Yarn Bee yarn, which is a line from Hobby Lobby, but the label, I didn't have the full label, so I don't know what the line of Yarn Bee was. But the colorway is called Farmer's Market, and the yarn is fingering weight, 50% superwash merino wool, 50% lyocell, and I held 2 strands of that fingering weight together to get a DK weight, which is what this pattern calls for. I started this hat on April 23rd and finished it on May 2nd. I used US 2.75 millimeter needles, and again, I made the adult small size. I also adjust the pattern to knit it longer than what is recommended. I knit these hats to 9.5 inches before I do the crown decreasing to get more of a generous brim when it's folded up. The crown decreases are spirally and very beautiful. I like them a lot. They're easy to do as well. And I just really love the colors in this hat. I thought that yarn just worked up so beautifully together. I think it's super fun. This hat weighs 88 grams. And I think that covers it. I have a few finished objects that I also have works in progress with. So I'm going to be switching back and forth between some finished objects and works in progress. So I do have another one of these classic ribbed hats on the go. This bag I got from a garage sale type thing. It was actually done at my grandmother's church, my husband's grandmother's church. And they have done it twice now, where their church just opens up to people coming in, and it's called a garage giveaway, I guess, because everything's free. So their church has done 2 of these giveaways where it looks like a garage sale, but you don't have to pay for anything. So anyway, I got this at one of those, and it is by Vera Bradley. So it works really well. It's got 2 little pockets in the front here, which are great. And then on the inside, it has several pockets. 3 open pockets here, and then 1 zippered pocket on this side. So I'm sure it's meant to be a purse, but I'm using it as a knitting bag. And it also zips closed as well at the top here, so it's great. Anyway, I am making another classic ribbed hat. I'm using the same yarn. So again, it's Yarn Bee in that same makeup of 50% merino wool and 50% lyocell. I still have this cake of the Farmer's Market colorway left over. And then I'm also using this colorway, which is called Indigo Desert, I think. Yes, Indigo Desert. So I've started this hat on May 2nd, and I haven't made a ton of progress on this for having started it so long ago. I should put some needle stoppers on here because I just lost a stitch, but anyway. Oh yeah, there's another one. I lost 2 stitches. I do have plenty of needle stoppers. I just don't always grab them. Anyway, I'm making this the same as I have done. So adult small US 2.75 millimeter needles. Again, I'm holding these two fingering weights double, of course. And it's kind of fun to see how the color is differing, having the two different colors held together. So it's very similar, but you can see it's a bit different with that indigo desert instead of holding the farmer's market together with itself. Anyway, I've only done a couple of inches on this one so far, but it's, like I've said, just a nice pattern to have on the go, very mindless and easy to be transported around. So my next finished object, I have started making some more dishcloths. So I finished 4. I haven't made dishcloths in a very long time, but I have run out of my stash. So I needed to I don't know what the word is. Well, I needed to make some more. I'm trying to think of a word that, oh well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm making some more dishcloths to have on hand to give as gifts. By the way, the hats I'm also just keeping on hand to have as gifts. Anyway, the pattern that I like using the best for dishcloths is called the Classic Easy Knit Dishcloth. It is a free pattern by Carolyn Stanton. She also goes by Caroselle Design. And I started making these dishcloths on April 28th, and I'm just going to be knitting through quite a bit of my cotton worsted weight stash. So these are all done in 100% cotton worsted weight. I use US 6 4mm needles, and I adjust the pattern by only increasing to 52 stitches before I decrease. And then when I'm all done, I've only been decreasing to 4 stitches and then binding off those 4 stitches. On the first 3 I made, I bound off traditionally those last 4 stitches. On the last one that I've made, I just took my needle and threaded it through those last 4 stitches just to get more of a rounded corner on the bind off, because sometimes the bind off corner can be a little bit pointier than the other corners. Anyway, this yarn was gifted to me. Well, probably most of this yarn was gifted to me. Most of it was by friends or viewers of this channel. So this one was Crafter's Secret Cotton and Nepalese Spices. And I finished this one on May 2nd. Then I had a little bit left over of the Nepalese spices, and I held it together with this mystery green color. I don't know what that is. I think I used up the green first and then finished off with the Nepalese spices colorway because I still had a tiny little bit of that Nepalese spices, and I striped it into this dishcloth. This main color is Peaches and Cream and Camel. And I like the little addition of those stripes. I think that's a fun addition. So I usually give dishcloths in sets of 3. I don't really know why that is, but I do. So these 3 are kind of a set because they go together. And then I've got one more that I finished using a mystery. This one didn't have a label either, so I don't know what it is, but it's very pretty. And I still have quite a bit of this yarn left over. I think finished dishcloths take 40 some grams for me, and I have about 30 some grams left over of the same colorway, so I'll make another one with like half and half again, probably, or using up what I've got of this color with another color and the other, you know, finishing off with another color. I do have one of these on the go as well. This is being held in a project bag that I got off of an Etsy shop called My Creative Frenzy. She doesn't normally make project bags, but I got a few project bags from her shop several years ago. And I am just making a plain white one. Oh, I'm in the middle of a row. That's okay though. I'm just making a plain white one right now using Peaches and Cream again in the white color. So this one I'll probably have along with this peach one, and then I'll do a third one with the leftovers of this colorway and finish off with the white, and that'll be another set of 3. That's my plan anyway. And I have several other yarns set aside to make more different sets of dishcloths. So I'll have those on the go in the near, in the foreseeable future. I'll be continuing to make those. Those are great projects to have, especially in the warmer months as well, because they're, made out of cotton yarn and they're nice and small and easy to transport around as well. I have made a few baby items. We have a lady at our church that is about ready to have her 4th child, and they have 3 girls and now they're having a boy, so that's fun. And we're having a bit of like a little baby shower for her after church on Sunday, and so I wanted to knit her some things. I was gifted this yarn by a viewer of this channel. It is Kramer Yarns Tatamy. It's a DK weight, 45% cotton, 55% acrylic. In this the colorway is called Playtime. But it's a really nice yarn. I've really enjoyed working with it, and I think it'll be great for a baby, for baby gifts. I found this pattern. Oh, it's so adorable. It's called the Lazy Days Romper. The designer is Marianna Mel. It's a paid for pattern, but it comes with both the romper pattern and a pinafore dress option. And it comes in 4 sizes, from large premature / small newborn. Then there's a newborn size, 3-month and 6-month size as well. So I think it's a pretty good deal for a pattern. And it's so adorable. I made the smallest size. Oh, it's so stinking cute. I love it so much. I started this on April 29th and finished it on May 5th. It is knit in pieces. So you knit the front piece and the back piece, and then you seam them together. But really it's only seamed on these tiny little side strips. It's knit from the bottom up. And these buttons at the bottom are called for in the pattern. So I followed the pattern completely except for these straps up here. These straps up here are not meant to be buttoned. They're meant to be attached. But I thought it would be super cute to have it more of like an overall style with buttons. And I also thought it might be helpful to make the straps a little bit longer and then add an extra buttonhole so that they could adjust the straps, if that would be good. These are all in garter stitch, so they are quite stretchy. And I just thought that might be good, but I'm not really sure. This seems very, very small to me, but of course newborns are very, very small. I hope this fits. It's just a newborn size, so it won't fit for long, but I hope it will fit and be cute when the baby is first born. So the original pattern calls for you to knit the straps on the front piece, which I did originally, and then I thought about how cute it would be if the straps were actually attached to the back and then they could button up in the front and have little buttons up here, because I just thought that would be so cute. So I adjusted the pattern by binding off the stitches on the front instead, and then adding the straps to the back piece. And like I said, I added some buttonholes. The buttonholes are not called for in the pattern at all because it's not supposed to have buttons, but I just added some buttonholes, and I added 2 sets of buttonholes in case they wanted to or needed to adjust the length. I don't know if they'll need that or not, but anyway, I just think it's super cute. I used US 5 3.75 millimeter needles to get the gauge of 22 stitches to 4 inches. I did go down a needle size for that because I am quite a loose knitter in general. I did make the straps a little bit longer, like I mentioned, so maybe that second buttonhole will be useful since I made them a little bit longer. And I just did a typical buttonhole. I did, oh, there's a little tail poking out. I did add 1 extra stitch to the straps so that the buttonhole would be able to line up in the center, because the original straps only called for 6 stitches, and so I added 1 more stitch, so my straps have 7 stitches total, so that I could put the button right in the middle of those straps. And I think that covers it pretty much. So cute, isn't it? I'm so excited to gift this on Sunday. I wanted to make some other, I had plenty of this yarn. I still have plenty of this yarn, so I wanted to make a few other things to go along with this romper. So I made a pair of Rye socks, which is a free pattern by Tin Can Knits. And I made these socks. They turned out too big, but I think they'll still be useful. So I started these on May 5th and finished them on May 7th. They, again, are using the same yarn. It's DK weight, and that's what the pattern calls for. The pattern calls for you to use smaller needles for the ribbing and then to go up to larger needles for the rest of the sock. I just use those smaller needles for the entirety of the sock. So it's US 2.75 millimeter needles for these socks. So I did not go up to the US 3 as the pattern recommends. My gauge was a little bit too loose because I am a loose knitter. My gauge was 26 stitches to 4 inches. I forget what the recommended gauge is, but that's looser than what is recommended. So I made these as the newborn size, which is the smallest size in the pattern. But I could tell that they were turning out quite big. And I measured the circumference of the socks, and they were turning out to be the circumference of the toddler size. So I followed the pattern until I got to the foot, and then I just knit the foot to the length of the recommended length for the toddler size before I did the toe decreases. But there is a lady at church, well, a couple at church that have a little girl who she turned 1 in February. So I think maybe these will fit her, and I'm going to see if that will work. I'll show them to her mom and say, do you think these will work? I meant to make a smaller size. They turned out too big, but I think that her little girl will be able to fit into them. If not, I think they'll probably fit her now, but they might be a little big yet, so she might grow into them. Anyway, they're very cute. They have this garter section down the front. And I thought that worked well with the romper because, you know, it has the edging of garter stitch. So I thought that it was a nice set. And so I made a second pair that were smaller. So I just counted I did a little count. I counted my stitch count and then compared that to what the newborn size should have been and reduced my stitches accordingly. So the original pattern, I think, calls for you to cast on 32 stitches for the newborn size, which is what I did with these larger ones. But for these smaller ones, I only cast on 24 stitches. Otherwise, I followed the same basic pattern, but just, of course, knit them to the newborn length for the toe, or for the foot. I started these on May 7th and finished them on May 9th. And again, I used the US 2.75 millimeter needles. So they're knit from the cuff to the toe, and then the toes are Kitchenered shut. And I think these look like they will be a lot better size to go with the newborn outfit. Oh, they're so cute together. And then I also knew that Tin Can Knits had a hat that kind of had that garter section on it as well. It's called the Barley hat. And I made that as well. So it also has this little bit of garter stitch on one little section of the hat, and the rest is stockinette. This is another free pattern, and I started this on May 9th, which was the day that my daughter and I drove to Eastern Iowa, which is a 4-hour drive from here to there. And I started it that morning before we left, and then I was able to finish it that evening after we got to my parents' house. So it was a super quick project. It is knit from the cuff or the brim to the crown. And I used US 3 3.25 millimeter for the ribbing, and then went up to US 5 3.75 for the rest of the hat. I made the newborn size, and it was a very quick and easy project, and I think it's super cute. So I have a sweet set to give to that family at church, and I think it's so fun. I weighed these 3 pieces, and now I can't remember. I think altogether they were like 80 some grams, and I still have enough of this yarn. I have this skein and then another partial skein And I have enough to make another full set. So I'm thinking I might just to have as another gift for some other family down the road, because it's just such a cute and fun pattern. I maybe could try to make the pinafore instead of the romper, but the romper is nice because then it could work for both a boy or a girl. And this green color is also very general neutral, I think. It could go for either a boy or a girl as well. So I think that's very fun. Recently, my sons, two of my sons, my two youngest sons, have, well, one of my sons, a few weeks ago, one of my sons had a belly ache at bedtime. And so I warmed up my hot water bottle for him and let him use it. And he really liked it. And then him and my youngest son both said that they would like to have a hot water bottle of their own. So I ordered some more hot water bottles and have knit them some hot water bottle covers. So this is for my second youngest son. He is 12. This is the third hot water bottle cover I have knit. I've used the same pattern for all of them. It is a free pattern called Warm and Cozy by Amy Molnar. I started this on April 29th and I finished it on May 10th. It uses worsted weight yarn. The main color that I used is Lamb's Pride worsted in Persian Peacock, which is 85% wool, 15% mohair. And then for all of these, I have 2 finished hot water bottle covers, and then I have 1 more as a work in progress. And I'm not going to share all of the different colors that I put into all of these because it'll take too long to go through all the different colors. So this son loves the color blue, and so he picked out all of my blue colors that I had in my worsted weight yarn. And he said that the original pattern comes with 6 different colorwork motifs that you can choose what you want to put into your hot water bottle cover. But my son did not want any pictures, so the original pattern comes with teacups, cats, mittens, stocking caps, paw prints, a teapot, and teacup, or like a coffee cup. Anyway, he didn't want any of those pictures in his hot water bottle cover. He just wanted stripes. Well, I kind of did a little more than stripes just to make it more interesting for me. But I did use the first 4 rows of the colorwork chart. It includes this zigzag pattern. And then I kind of just did my own thing, making diamond shapes and filling them in. And I really love how this one turned out. I think it's super fun. And it's really interesting how the colors, when they're together, look different. They're all, shades of blue. But the color that's in the middle of these is more of like a gray blue. And he said, when he saw how it was coming along, he's like, oh, that's interesting. This one almost looks purple compared to everything else. And I can see what he means by that. It's just interesting to see how the colors look when they're knit up together. I used US 6 4mm needles for starting the project and finishing the project. But for the colorwork section, I used US 7 4.5mm needles. I knit that on a short circular in the round. I started this. It starts from the bottom up. And the first 2 hot water bottle covers that I used Judy's Magic cast on, I think it's called. And I find that rather tricky, and I find it difficult to make it neat. It looks a little sloppy when I've done it. And I was watching an episode of It Is a Sarah podcast, which I absolutely love. And she was talking about how she was knitting socks, and she uses the Turkish cast on knitting socks toe up. And she really likes the Turkish cast on. So I looked that up, and it is so simple, and I highly recommend that because that is just so much more simple than Judy's Magic cast on. I'm pretty sure that's what that's called. And anyway, it worked out really well. But this was the first time I ever tried that, and I messed it up and I flipped my work the wrong way. So my cast on shows the purl bumps, which nobody will care or even notice except me. But that was just a little mistake that I made, but it's insignificant. And anyway, I really like that Turkish cast on, so I have used that in the other two that I'm working, the second one I finished and the other one I'm working on, I've used that same technique, but I've done it the right way on these last two. Anyway, I really love this pattern and I love how this turned out. Is that it for this one? I think so. The second one is for my youngest son, and here is his. So he picked out these colors. I did add in the burgundy color as well, just because I wanted a little bit more of a contrast in this section. And he asked for me to add in some dogs on his. So the two sides don't match. This side has a sitting dog and like a dog that's getting ready to pounce, it looks like. And then this side has a standing dog and a dog holding out his paw to shake, I guess. So the main color on this one is, I love this wool in Toasted Almond, which is 100% wool. They're all wool yarns. I started this one on May 12th and finished it on May 14th. So this one worked up really quickly because I was super excited to see how those dogs would turn out. I again did the Turkish cast on, but this time I didn't mess it up and I got the stockinette on the outside and it looks so nice and neat. Like I said, with the Judy's Magic cast on, I had a hard time with my cast on being too loose. And this just is so easy, and you just wrap the yarn around your two needles and then knit the stitches. It just is quite remarkable that it even works, but it does, and it's great. I again did I kind of did the same thing for the color work. If you can kind of see the similarities. I kind of did this my own thing, but just changed it up a little bit for the stripy section. And then for the dogs, I found a chart on Pinterest. I just searched on Pinterest for dog colorwork charts, and I found this colorwork chart that I had that had 5 or 6 different dog motifs on it. I can't figure out how to link it, so I don't really know how to share it with you all if you're interested, but nobody's probably very interested. I don't know. Maybe just check out, maybe I could put it, I don't know, could I do that? Can I put a Pinterest, is that legal? I'm not sure. I'm not going to put it on the screen. I was thinking maybe I could just put it on the screen, but I don't really know if that is okay to do or not. It probably is, but I guess if anybody's really interested in knowing what colorwork chart I used, you can let me know and I'll try to somehow send you a link to it. But anyway, I just had a lot of fun working these up. I was a little concerned that it looks good on the screen, but when I was knitting it up, I didn't think that the color that he had picked out for the dogs was going to be a contrast, enough of a contrast for the dogs to really stand out. So a couple of times while I was knitting them, I kept showing it to him and asking him, do you think this is showing up well enough? I was having a hard time seeing the dogs show up. And I suggested that we either use a darker color for the dogs or use more of a plain color for the background instead of this marled yarn. But he continued to assure me that he thought it looked good, and he was right. I think it does look good. For the eyes, nose, and collars, I did duplicate stitching to add those in so that I didn't have to worry about messing with those little bits. These dogs did require quite a lot of long floats, especially here because this dog ended like maybe 6 rows before this one did, so I had to carry the yarn quite a ways around the hot water bottle. But it worked out. I just caught my floats, and since this yarn is marled, it didn't really matter. You can't see the catch where I caught the yarn at all, so it worked out well. I just think these are so sweet. They're just like little mini sweaters, and I think they're so fun. So I love this one. And then, of course, we have 5 children, and so everybody now wants a hot water bottle cover. And so my daughter was next to ask for a hot water bottle cover, and I am working on hers. And again, I'm not going to go through all of the colors because she has a lot of colors in hers. This is how I knit them. I knit them inside out so that my floats can wrap around the outside and have a longer way to stretch. It helps the floats not to be too tight. I do that on these, and I also do this on my colorwork socks that I've been knitting lately. So it's still knit the same way. You're just looking at this side while you're knitting. And that way, so you're knitting along and you're still looking at the right side. It's just the work, the floats are going around the outside. And so they have more stretch, more distance to travel around the outside of the tube. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's not difficult at all. You just flip your work inside out. So for hers, the main color that I am using is Cascade 220 Superwash yarn. I believe the color is called Mystic Purple, but the tag was kind of cut off, so I could see Mystic and part of the word purple, so I think that's what it's called. And it is 100% superwash wool. There's also a color number for this purple color, which is 1948. She asked for some cupcakes for her colorwork motif, and so I am just kind of making this up as I go, and I'm having so much fun with it. I also have used the colorwork chart from Summer Lee's Colorwork Cuff Club sock pattern from the month of January for these scallops. But I did it upside down. So the Colorwork Cuff Club is knit from the cuff down, and this is knit from the bottom up, and so I just flipped the chart around and knit it from the, I knit it upside down basically. Anyway, so I love how this is turning out. For the cupcake chart, again, I just went onto Pinterest and looked up a cupcake pattern, but it is very, very simple. And I ended up adjusting it. So the original chart that I found for these cupcakes, the widest section was only 5 stitches wide. And I thought that was going to be too small. So I increased mine to be, the widest part here is 7 stitches. So I've just increased everything a little bit and then made them a little bit taller as well. And it's been really fun to go through my stash and pick out different cupcake colors. And I think this is so sweet. I did, originally, I added this first scalloped row is off by 1 stitch. I wish it's all in hindsight because I did the scalloping and then I hadn't done the cupcake yet and I didn't realize that I was going to want to make the cupcake chart larger until I tried it. But anyway, from now on, I'm kind of lining up the cupcakes with the scallop so that they are, you can kind of see that they're centered. The cupcakes are centered underneath the scallops. And this first row of scallops is off by just 1 stitch. So that's kind of annoying, but I didn't want to rip it back. I didn't actually notice that it was off until I did the second row of scalloping. And I was too far along to rip back at that point. But anyway, this is so fun and addictive that these are working up so quickly. I started this one on May 14th, so 2 days ago, and I'm sure it won't take me too much longer to finish up because it's just so engaging to see how these different motifs work up together. I think I'll have, according to my calculations, I'll have enough room to make 4 rows, ending with, so I'm on my 3rd row of cupcakes here, and then I'll do 1 more row of cupcakes in a different color, and I have scallops in between each, and I'll end with a scallop row at the top, I think, if I've calculated it correctly. Oh, I did increase this. The original pattern calls for you to have a total of 76 stitches for the main part of the hot water bottle cover. This one I increased to 80 stitches just so that the color work chart would fit on the stitch count. And I think that works out well anyway because I think that this Cascade 220 is a bit thinner than the other yarns I've used anyway. It seems to be working up a bit to more of a tighter gauge than the other ones anyway. So I think it's okay that I increased to 80 stitches for this one. Okay. So I've covered all of my finished objects now. And like I said, I've been going back and forth between finished objects and works in progress, but I still have 4 more works in progress to share with you all. The first one is one of the projects off of my Make 9 list. I am hosting a year-long make-along on Instagram for the Make 9 2025 Mal, so I'll have details in the description box below if you're not familiar with that make-along. But I have started 2 items off of my list, and I'm very excited about them. Okay, this first one is being held in this beautiful bag that was made for me quite a while ago. I did a swap with a lady several years ago, and I love that bag so much. And I am using some yarn that was gifted to me by Rosalba. I showed that off a couple of episodes ago. It is Swoon Fibers. The base, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. It's spelled A-E-R-E. You probably can't read that very well. But it is 90% cotton and 10% cashmere in the color lilac. And she gifted me 6 skeins of yarn. Here it is. Such a beautiful color. And I have started the Around Town Tee, which is a design made by Asya. And she gifted me both this pattern and the next pattern that I will share with you that I have started. Oh, I just lost a stitch. But that's okay. These are both crocheted patterns that I have started. And I did not realize this, but they are crocheted from the bottom up in pieces. So that's not my favorite construction of garments, but I'm gonna be okay here. I did have to start this one. I didn't do a gauge swatch for this. And I did have to restart it. This is the 3rd time I've restarted it. The first time I started it, I used, okay, the first time I had to read my notes to try to remember what I did. I started this on April 28th. And the first time I used a 2.5 millimeter hook, which is what was recommended, but I was getting too tight of a gauge. So then I went up to a 3.5 millimeter hook and I was getting too loose of a gauge. So I've gone in between and I'm now using a 2.75 millimeter hook. I'm making the size medium. And this is the front piece so far. It's, not much of a front piece yet, but this is what I've done so far. And I've also started the back piece, but I have even less of that done. So this I just have done a few rows on the back piece. And they're just plain double crochet stitches, just back and forth, no increasing or anything at this point. Well, I'm not sure, but it's worked from the bottom up, so then there's some shaping up here in the shoulder neck area, of course. This project is a bit slow going. Both this and the next one are a bit slow going. It's a pretty fine gauge, as you can see. It's fingering weight. Well, this one might be a little bit more of a sport weight. It is, for 50 grams, you get 175 yards. So it's kind of a, kind of in between the sport fingering weight gauge, probably. This yarn is an 8-ply yarn, and typically with plant-based fibers, the plies, they're not tightly plied. So the different plies of this yarn, they can come apart pretty easily. I don't know if you can tell very well, but it just splits apart easily because it's plant-based, and I think that's pretty typical for plant-based yarns. So this yarn can be tricky. It can be tricky to catch all 8 plies when I'm crocheting. So that forces me to really slow down my crocheting, and I have to be really careful when I'm making these stitches. So it's a pretty slow process. It's very, very mindless at this point, but it is slow. So it takes me quite a while to make any real progress on this project. So that's okay though. It is an easy, mindless project, but I do have to look at my stitches. I can't look away from it like I can with some of my knitting or some of my easier crochet stitches. this one I really have to pay attention to it and, you know, make sure I'm catching all those strands of the yarn. But I really love the yarn and how it's working and how it feels and how it's got a nice drape to it, I think. So I'm pretty confident I'm going to love the finished garment, but it might take me a while to finish it. And the other garment I'm working on is being held in this adorable bag that was gifted to me by Emily Clausen of Yarn Prairie or Salt City Knits. And it was made by Susan of Delightful Works. And this is another pattern made by Asya. This is called the Summer Wave Skirt. And this is another one that is just slow going. And this is another one that I had to start over. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong there. I can't quite remember, but anyway, I did not do a gauge swatch for this one either. I'm just kind of doing my own thing. I am making the extra large size for this. I think I can remember now what I did. I started this and I just kept trying it on, and I adjusted my original starting row according to what I needed to fit around my hips, basically. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. I have very little progress on this, but I feel like I've put a lot of work into it. Anyway, I am using black yarn, so that doesn't help because it's hard to see my stitches with black yarn, and it's quite fine as well. And I have to do a bit of counting with this pattern because it has this scalloped pattern. But I'm very excited about this. I have never knit or crocheted a skirt before, and so I'm really excited to have a crocheted skirt. The yarn that I'm using is Knit Picks Gloss Fingering in Black. It is fingering weight 70% merino wool, 30% silk. I'm using a 2.5 millimeter hook, and which is the recommended hook. I started this on April 26th. Yeah, and I haven't made a lot of progress in that amount of time. That's been several weeks that I've been working on it, and this is all I have to show for it. So this will probably be a long work in progress as well, but I have continued to try it on, and it does fit over my hips. So this is knit from the top down. I'm sorry, crocheted from the top down. And I only have 6 50-gram balls or skeins of this yarn, and I most definitely will need to get some more of this yarn, but I just haven't done that yet. I kind of just want to work through what I have and see how long I can make it using the 6 skeins that I have, but I'm pretty sure it won't be very long with only 6 skeins. According to the pattern, I think I need like 7 more skeins in order to have the recommended yardage that she calls for, if I'm doing the right calculations, if I've done that right. Anyway, we'll see how that one goes. I'm hoping that if I do need to order more, that the colorways will match up well enough that there won't be too much of a difference. Since it's just plain black yarn, and since it's a commercial yarn, I'm hoping that the dye lots won't be too off. Actually, I have 3 different dye lots in this yarn anyway, because I ordered this yarn like 2 or 3 times, and I think I have, well, it doesn't matter. I just have a few, I don't know why I have so many different dye lots. I know I ordered it in at least 2 different batches of ordering, maybe 3 different batches of ordering, where I just would add on a couple more skeins of this yarn. I was thinking I was going to use it to knit a cardigan, but anyway, I thought since I had it in my stash and I wanted to make the skirt in black anyway, and I thought the makeup of the merino and silk would be good for a skirt, so I just wanted to try it for this project. Okay, my next work in progress is my Colorwork Cuff Club socks for the month of May, designed by Summer Lee, and I am holding these in this adorable bag that was gifted to me by Danielle of Midwest Stitches. And I really love the May chart. It's so sweet. It is a tangled mess, but I'm working it out. It is this rose pattern. I think they're so sweet. I just love this chart. The stem is a little bit funny. I'm not sure why it goes like that, but the actual flower part I really love. These, of course, are knit from the cuff down. I cast on 60 stitches, did 2x1 ribbing for 12 rounds. That is a differentiation from the pattern. She doesn't have a 60 stitch count in her original pattern, but I know that's what works for me. And then for the color work, I increased my stitches to 72 stitches, which is the size for the large in her patterns. And I work my color work on larger needles, so I go up to so I start with US 0.2mm needles, and then for the color work, I go up to 3mm needles. And I work those like I showed you on the hot water bottle cover. I work those on short circulars in the round and work inside out again so that my floats can stretch around and have, I'll have a lot of stretch throughout the color work. Because I tend to knit color work much tighter than my regular knitting. After the color work, I go back down to the 60 stitch count and I switch back to the US 0.2mm needles, and I work my socks 2 at a time once I'm past the color work section. The yarn that I'm using is West Yorkshire Spinners in the Evergreen colorway. That was gifted to me by a friend of mine named Michelle. And then the 2 contrast colors were just minis in my stash. I don't know what they were. I'm not positive of what they were. I have some guesses, but I'm not going to worry about it because I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, the main color is 75% wool, 25% nylon. I started these on May 1st, and I'm very happy with them. Oh, she does have an option to add in a broken rib pattern for the main body of the sock, and I have started doing that, but I've only done a few rounds. I work through the color work on these socks, and then I've been distracted by other things, so I haven't put a ton of work into these. But I have started the broken rib, but you probably can't even see it. But anyway, it's just, a ribbing pattern for one round and then plain knits for the second round. So I wasn't sure. I had put those on hold for a while because I wasn't sure if I wanted to just do plain stockinette for the socks or if I wanted to try that broken rib. And I decided to give it a try. Since I have other projects that are more mindless, I thought I could handle doing a broken rib on these socks instead of having them be completely mindless. Okay, one more work in progress. Oh boy, I thought this might be a longer episode because it's been so long. I am making another baby blanket. If you've watched before, you know that I just absolutely love crocheting baby blankets. I do them a lot and I just have them on hand. I just like to keep a collection of baby blankets that I can gift to people. I'm also going to be gifting a blanket to the family that I showed you, the little romper and everything. I have a baby blanket that kind of coordinates with the colors in the romper and everything that I'm going to be gifting to them as well. Anyway, I've started another baby blanket. I was gifted all of this yarn quite a while ago by another viewer of this episode. I've always been so generously blessed with lots of yarn from viewers of this channel, which I so appreciate. Anyway, I got this leisure arts pamphlet from my local thrift store a while ago, and it is called Cozy Comfort Afghans. It's the best of Mary Maxim, so they're all Mary Maxim patterns, and it comes with 6 patterns. The pattern that I'm making is on the back here. It's called the Beach Side Throw, and there's a larger picture inside I can show you so that you can kind of see. Well, I'll show you obviously on the one I'm making as well, the stitch pattern, but it looks like this in the original pattern. And I believe that this stitch pattern is maybe called the slanted granny stitch. I looked it up and I found a few tutorials that weren't exactly the same as this pattern. This pattern is available, so I will link it. You don't have to buy the booklet. You can just buy this pattern. But I think you could probably also find some free patterns that are very similar to this stitch pattern. I've never done this stitch pattern before, but I love it so much. I'm using 3 different colors of this Bernat Cotton Tots yarn, which is 100% cotton yarn, worsted weight. This main color that I'm using is called Wonder Dreams. And then I have 2 other colors. I'm really actually almost done with this. I'm quite a ways on it. I am using a 4.5 millimeter hook, which I think is different than what they called for. I think I went down a hook size for this. Yeah, they called for a J6 millimeter hook. I just thought that was going to be way too loose. So I tried it with this 4.5 millimeter hook, and I really liked the gauge that I got. I have, oh, it's so pretty. Oh, isn't it pretty? I love it. So that main color I had the most of, and so I'm using that. So the way I'm doing it is I'm making 3 rows of each color, and I'm doing the Wonder Dreams, and then this yellow is called Lemon Berry, and then 3 more rows of the Wonder Dreams, and then the blue is called Blueberry. So I had to do a lot of calculations for this to figure out how much I could make, because I only had 1 skein of the blue and the yellow, and I think I have 4 skeins of the Wonder Dream, so I have plenty of that. But I have just done my final row of the blueberry, and I only have a tiny little ball. I think I have like 5 grams left over. And then for the lemon, I'm on my last stripe of the lemon berry, and again I have like just enough to finish off this, and I'll be done. So I just have, here, this is all I have left, but I'm almost done. So I've waited, and I know I'll be okay. Oh, I do have 1 little more ball of that, but I don't think I'll need this one. Anyway, I had to restart this one. I started it off, let's see, did I write down what I did exactly? I started off with a chain of 110 stitches originally, and it was turning out too wide, I thought. So I went down to only 100 stitches, so not that much difference, but I just made it a little bit more narrow. I started this one on May 5th, and it is pretty narrow, to be honest. But I think what my plan is I'm going to finish off this yellow, then I'm going to do 3 more rows of the Wonder Dreams, and then I think I'm going to use that Wonder Dream, since I have extra, to crochet some border on each of the sides. That's my plan. So it's only 24 inches wide, and I don't know how long it will be exactly yet, but you know, it's a rectangle shape. So I measured it, and it's like maybe almost 30 inches. I think it will be almost 30 inches long, I think. I'm not really sure. Anyway, but the pattern is just so enjoyable to make. So what you do, this is a paid for pattern. Well, I'll just kind of give a general idea. You make like a chain stitch on each row, and then on the following row, you're working a granny stitch, which is 3 double crochets together as a cluster like this, and you're working that into the chain from the previous row. So it's super easy to tell where to put your hook, and I can do this without looking at it. It's so simple and enjoyable. I just love this stitch so much. I think it would be super fun to use this stitch in a scrappy blanket, like a large Afghan, and just use up scraps. I think that would be super fun. Anyway, I love this stitch pattern. Now I did just notice today that the edges look a bit tight. You know, they're not laying. I have an issue with my edges lately. It seems, I feel like I need to like pull it to make it lay flat. So again, I think if I add some stitches to the edges here, I think that will help things lay nicer anyway. So maybe I just worked those side stitches a little too tight. I'm not sure, but It is nice and straight, but it's just, and I haven't blocked it, so it probably will help to block it, of course, too. But I think that is so beautiful. I love the colors together, and I love the stitch. I think it's great. I can definitely see myself using this pattern again. And I'm also interested in trying the corner to corner pattern. I assume it's just a typical corner to corner pattern, but I really like this pattern as well, and I think I might try that one next. That one is called the Diagonal Stripes Throw. So I'm gonna give that one a try next, I think, because I have some more of this Cotton Tots yarn that was gifted to me by the same lady. She gifted me a lot of that yarn, and I believe it was Ellen, if I'm remembering right. It's so hard for me to try to keep everybody straight, but I'm pretty sure it was Ellen. So thank you again, Ellen. If I have that right, I hope I do. Anyway, I'm planning on making another baby blanket using some more of that yarn after I finish this one. Okay, that is all of my projects that I have to share with you all. I know that was a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the things that I have been working on, and I hope that you're really enjoying the things that you're working on as well. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.